Welcome to the HR Insider, your go to podcast for insights into the ever evolving world of human resources and organizational strategy. I'm your host, Harshal. Today, we are tackling a bold and timely question. Are cracks forming in the talent strategies of global captive centers? GCCs have played a central role in shaping India's tech identity. But in today's complex and competitive talent landscape, even the most established models are being put to the test. To help us explore this topic, I'm joined by someone who brings both sharp insights and real world experience to the table, Ms Asma Sait, Head of Talent Acquisition Attraction at AP Moller Maersk. Asma is widely recognized as a true champion in the HR space with over 15 years of experience. Named one of the India's top 100 HR leaders under 40, she leads talent strategies across diverse industries and geographies, and she brings an honest, grounded perspective on what works, what doesn't. Asma, welcome to the HR Insider podcast. It's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you so much, Harshal, for that. It's great to be here.
It's absolutely our pleasure, Asma. And I'm going to straight away put you in a spotlight. GCCs have long been seen as premium employers in India's tech landscape. However, beneath the success stories, what are some of the most pressing talent related challenges they're currently grappling with?
Okay. So I've been, as you rightly said, it's been 15 years, that I'm working, and predominantly my experience has been in GCCs. While GCCs are considered to be the premium employers because of the kind of work that talent gets to do, they get to own end-to-end processes. There are some under the surface challenges that we face in attracting talent. Firstly, so I will maybe talk about the top three or four.
Absolutely.
One of the main challenges that we have is the demand and supply gap, right? Especially in the digital skills, to name a few, the AI/ML skills, data analytics, right? These are ever evolving skills. So what is relevant today might not be relevant tomorrow. And it puts a lot of pressure on the organizations and even on the talent, right? They need to keep constantly upskilling, reskilling. So that's one challenge that the GCCs often face. And recently, I was just reading a report which says that out of 10 open Gen AI roles, right, we only have
Yeah.
one qualified engineer that's available. So that's the kind of demand and supply gap we're talking about. That leads to the second point that I want to talk about is the intense competition and the talent mobility that we see in India. And it's also because we have so much of opportunities available. All the GCCs are fishing the talent from the same pool, which means, right, compensation is one of the main factors that they look for, and other being growth opportunities.
Hmm.
And then with a lot of Gen Zs and young millennials in the workforce, their expectations from the organizations are very different. Gone are those days where you see people with longer tenure in the organization. Right now, they need the young Gen Zs or young millennials, they need a lot of purpose driven work, right? The flexibility, autonomy, they want to take quick decisions. So that's how they look at when they look or choose to join a GCC. And then that also brings to the fourth challenge that mostly the GCCs are facing is retaining the talent, right?
Yeah.
After
Yeah.
attracting is fine. We get people in. But how do we then ensure that they're getting enough growth within the organization? What are we doing to retain them? And, if you look at the attrition rate, it's quite high in the GCCs because most of the organizations also believe in buy models, right? Wherein, because they are in the digital transformation journey, they don't have time to slow down. They have to quickly deliver results, which means they really look at the external market to buy the resources instead of, building it internally. So that's those are four, major challenges that I would like to talk about that currently GCCs are facing.
You know, just to add on the perspective you mentioned about the digital transformation pace, right? And the need of that building a talent versus buying a talent, right? Do you think this is going to be sustainable as a GCC scale further with the kind of competition which is emerging in GCC ecosystem? I was reading we're going to be having more than 2,500 plus GCs in the next couple of years, right? We are
Yeah.
already at 1,700 plus, right? So more and more GCs are going to come in. They're going to have their value proposition, and then the competition is only going to increase in this space. So how
Agreed.
sustainable do you think it's going to be, or we have to slow down and build more capability, and once the capability is in, then that's when the acceleration can happen? So what's your take on that?
Yeah. So Harshal, this is a topic that's very close to my heart because day in day out I talk to the leaders about this. Right. The minute there's always an urgency to fill, and I always keep talking to them. Right. While the urgency I understand, it's like what you're looking at right now, but are we looking at the future strategy? Like, are we really building a talent strategy for success? I would say
Yeah.
no. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Short term, it is absolutely okay. Just go ahead, find resources in the external market, get them in. But unless you don't have a strong talent strategy within the organization, right? When I'm saying strong talent strategy, it includes you have to look at having early careers as one of the options because they are the best talents that's available. Give them growth opportunities within the organization. Have more learning infrastructures in place, right? And understand what's your need down the lane, 12 months, 24 months, and then you build it within the organization, right? But very often I see that that's the lack of vision these organizations right now have. They don't know what they need after 12 to 24 months, and they're very narrowly focused on their current need. And people won't stay, right? Like, as I said, attrition is a problem. And why people don't stay? Because they don't see a learning culture in the organization. I've seen when freshers join the organization, they stay longer with you because they get feel that this is the time for them to learn, grow, and the outcome that they produce is much better compared to your experienced folks. And I know it, right? I'm not generalizing as such. There are also good mid-level or experienced folks giving great outcomes. But the learning agility, right? A lot of experienced talent do not want to upskill or reskill. We've seen this. They come with a kind of a mindset where they say, "Oh, we've learned enough. We know everything." That agility is missing, right? And when you look at the young talent that comes straight out of the colleges, they just want to try everything, right? They want to learn, they want to grow, and that's how their quality of outcome is also good. So unless the organizations don't build up on their strategy, I want to give you one example of what we are also doing. Is we're also tying up with institutes or colleges or universities, right? And we're also giving them what we want them to cover in terms of their academics. So it's like a very different program where once they complete that program, they're more industry ready than
Yes.
just going through your regular academic. That's something that we're also doing, and it's a very future-looking way to manage this problem, Harshal.
You spoke about agility and flexibility, the need for the GCCs, right? In the industry, if you look at, one common critics is that GCC adopt a lift and shift approach, right? They try to bring the global structures directly into the Indian context. In your experience, does this lead to cultural misalignment or hinder the agility when they're engaging with the local talent?
Yeah. So see, lift and shift is okay at the initial stages because
Yeah,
that's what they need when they're new in
absolutely.
the market. They really cannot then come up with a different strategy. But as long as that's only in the initial stages, it's absolutely fine. But if it tends to continue, then yes, there is a lot of cultural misalignment that happens.
Mhm.
Decision making becomes very slow, and the talent is so smart these days, right? They really know the difference between, are they just executing or are they creating something that's impactful, right? So it's very important that when a GCC moves from the stage one of their settling in, they really have to go towards localization. That's the word I keep using about
Absolutely.
it, right? So global context, but local execution. That's when you drive innovation. That's when you drive outcomes, right? And that's what keeps the talent engaged. So one such cultural misalignment that I've seen, with one of the organizations, that they have their holiday calendar, and this is a very basic example that I want to
Hmm.
give you, right? They have their holiday calendar basis the US, right? Because it's a US based organization.
Hmm.
Very few Indian holidays have been included in that, which is And I've seen, when your family is, taking a day off because it's a cultural and this person has to work, it's so not great, right? And that point of
Yes.
time you might not know, but definitely disengagement is happening. Another example that I've also seen with GCCs are they have a very flat structure, Harshal, right?
Hmm.
Compared to your, IT organizations. So what they do is, they kind of bring down what works in headquarters. And it's okay, right? In European countries, people don't see designations or titles as a very important factor, right? I've seen, folks, in the headquarters with 10 to 20 years, easily happy being a software engineer, called as a software engineering.
Yep.
While the work they do is definitely more impactful, but designations don't matter, titles don't matter. But if you bring that down to India, right? I don't think it'll really fly through because, here the Indian mindset is such that growth means that you need to see title change. Growth means that you need a promotion in on an average of 2 to 3 years. And if you don't give that, disengage employees. So I've personally done some sessions within my current organization where I talk to our employees about a topic called up is not the only way. Right. I also tell them that because we are GCCs, our structures are very flat. You can grow horizontally, right? Get more wider exposure, understand what other teams are doing and how the work is correlated,
Hmm.
and then it makes you a better, engineer as such, because then you're getting a holistic picture of what you're doing. So think from that standpoint and move from just being title oriented, right? Oh, I am a senior software engineer, I'm a lead engineer, I'm a manager, but you do what, right? Like, so that's what it is. So, lift and shift is okay till a certain point, but after some time, globalization is the only way out.
You mentioned about globalization, spoke about the early careers. You spoke about the need of having the people alignment from a cultural perspective, right? And these are all very unique elements, yet something very common, right? Which companies or GCCs fail to implement consistently. They might be doing in phases, but maybe the consistency is missing in how they are building and growing their base in India. And considering the kind of cultural alignment or the cultural expectation what people has in India, if you're not consistent, it becomes challenging for you, especially from people strategy perspective as you start growing, right? So I think very relevant points, Asma. Another thing, I just want to build up on the early careers. You spoke about need of alignment with the institutions, colleges, universities, work with them to build a industry ready curriculum and have a talent who is much more aligned or ready from day one to get accepted in the way of working of an organization or a GCC. But there's a twist. There's a growing concern that some GCCs overly prioritize hiring only from tier one or top tier institutions. Do you believe this narrow focus impacts diversity, potential, and inclusion in the long run? Because you know it's about potential, right? Or a talent, right? If somebody is hungry, somebody is having that ambition, that passion, right? That hunger is there, they're gonna stand out and they're gonna smash irrespective where they're from, right? And then we have seen in different domains of life, different professions, why GCs are overly obsessed with top tier institutions.
So, Harshal, I think you almost answered that question yourself, right? Like, one part of it is yes, GCCs are really obsessed with it because they think, and no doubt, right? Tier one institutes definitely gives us incredible
Mhm.
talent, but then are we defining it too narrowly, right? As you rightly said, are we saying that the talent from tier two and tier three colleges or universities are not good? So I've seen leaders coming to me and saying, "Hey, I want to hire from tier one," and my only question to them is, okay, that's great, but what is the kind of complex problem that you're trying to solve? Right? Many a time we don't ask these questions. We just go
Mhm.
ahead with, okay, what I've been asked to do, and go with the notion that yes, tier one, talents are great. They're great, but if we really have that kind of challenges to solve for, yes, you should look at that. And also, what are your evaluation mechanism? For example, I've known of tier one talent solving the same problem as tier 2 and tier 3 talent, right? And there is no differentiation to see, right? At times we've also seen the other way around where they do much better. So it's okay to hire from tier one, but the only problem is if you only look at that segment, then you end up being very having a very homogeneous team who think alike, build alike,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
and solve problems in similar ways. And what we've also seen is even talent from tier two, tier three cities, right? They really are good because they've never got an opportunity, and when they get that, they really go above and beyond to deliver, right? And you know how expensive education is, right? So not every talent has access to premium institutes because it's very costly and affair. So maybe judging only by the talent, saying that yes, top colleges or top tier one are the only good talent is not. I think we really need to have an honest conversation about that and give more opportunities, have a mix of crowd, so that it's easier to see what they deliver and then evaluate basis the outcome.
Maybe this has given more adoption towards hackathons, especially in the GCC eco space, right?
Yeah.
Wherein it's just not the education institutions, but the skills. And I think a lot more companies are now evolving or are implementing hackathons in their hiring strategy to bring
Yes.
right people into the workplace and ensure it's more about the skills over the education.
Yes. Yes. And that mindset shift is happening.
Also, at the start of our conversation, another point which stuck with me was investing in the skilling of our in-house talent versus externally buying or hiring new talent at an inflated cost. Right now, if you look at today the digital skills, and they're in huge demand, right? India is a hub globally. Companies are looking to bring the best of the best talent at whatever price they're demanding, right? We see counter offers, we see crazy hikes like 100%, 200% hikes, and yet candidates not joining, right? So GCCs are leaning towards heavily on hiring lateral talent at inflated cost rather than investing in skilling and internal capability building. I think this is a right approach, or is there something GCs are missing out on the ground? The moment the hiring opens up, the companies are after securing the talent at crazy cost, right? Crazy salaries, right? So how sustainable is this, and what's your take on that?
Yes, so I don't think it's really sustainable, and I want to take you back to the COVID era where
Mhm.
all this started. Right,
Yeah,
I remember talking to candidates those days, and they're like, "I have 5 offers, I have 6 offers," and I'm like, "Why are we still going behind these people?" Right, because we know end of the day they're not going to join. And at that point of time, what I really felt with the candidates was that they didn't care about what company it was. I think compensation
absolutely.
played a very important factor, and maybe second was the role, right? The compensation was okay. We were able to meet the compensation. Then the role comes into the picture. But trust me, it's not a sustainable way, if you look at it. And right now we're seeing the repercussions of that, right? During those days, we just, I know the, tech industry especially went all out there to acquire talent. And now what are we seeing? Right? The industry is just I don't want to really put it out there, but right, a lot of people are losing their jobs and things like that. But I'm just thinking, what if we, as talent partners, those days would have done a little better by maybe advising, or having a proper talent strategy by saying, hey, why don't we look at our internal talent, right?
Mhm.
Why don't we look at moving them around? Why don't we look at upskilling them? Why don't we have better learning programs so that we know, attritions are not very, then the attritions come at bay and people stay with us, and we don't have to really hire as much as we did if we had a very strong internal, systems in place. So yeah, I think that's my view as such. Even now, the trend continues, and I don't think it's sustainable. We really have to invest in in-house internal upskilling programs. Give them more opportunities within the organizations to grow, and that's where I bring back my example, right? When you, for example, when you hire a fresher, you give them a lot of learning opportunities. They stay with the organization, and from a cultural fit also, right? It becomes very easier when you have an internal talent moving roles, because then they know already about the
Absolutely.
organization. They are a cultural fit, they know what your values are. It becomes so much easier, and then we're also giving growth, which means that's what the talent is also looking for.
Absolutely. And my follow-up question is on the similar lines, right? we are seeing one very, very different trend, right? Even after giving the hikes, what the talent is asking, even after strong branding, right? So much of going on in the social media branding, your offline branding, your hackathon events, a lot of GCs are still reporting very high attrition, right? Does that suggest deeper issues in the employee experience or a disconnect in the leadership engagement? How would you take that up?
Yes, I would say both, right? Because in my view, compensation opens up the door for the person, the talent to come in, but it does not keep them inside, right? And if they have to really feel valued, then we really have to work on employee experience, number one, and the leadership, as you rightly said. The leadership is also plays a very key important role. Now, I'll first go through why I feel employee experience
Yeah,
gets compromised a little bit, right? Once they become your employees, right? And with growing AI coming in, we're trying to automate a lot of processes, right? So previously, employee engagement wouldn't have been this bad, I would say, because there was a lot of human touch in the entire process. But with AI coming in, everything gets answered with, for example, a chatbot, right?
yeah,
And chatbots might not give you exactly what you're looking for.
absolutely,
Some
absolutely.
basic information you get through, but still there's a deeper need for me as a candidate, for example, or me as an employee, to connect with somebody to get to know, right? And just going to chatbot might just increase my level of frustration. So are we then having enough human connects for the employees to understand what challenges do they have? Are they happy? Do they have any feedbacks? I know we run a lot of feedback surveys within the organization, right? And but are the employees feeling confident? Are they feeling secure enough to really put out their views? And that connects to the leadership point, Harshal, that you were talking, right? Do we have leaders with enough skills to lead teams? Right. I've also seen leaders with great technical know-how, right? They're excellent with their technical skills, but they really fail when it comes to people management. Their teams struggle, right? And the teams don't really open up. They quit in silence, right? They're like, it's
Yeah,
better to just move on than give feedback, because that's what they've seen. We don't have enough mechanisms to hear genuinely what's going on, right? And what I also feel is, in the coming days, in the future, at least AI will replace the technological know-how part of it, right? Because everything will then get automated and that's taken care of. More and more organizations have to invest in these leaders in terms of their soft skills, because if they can't collaborate, right, if they can't understand what the team members are going through, if they cannot be empathetic, these are soft skills that's really needed in a leader, which I think these days are a missing component, right? So a lot of organizations have to invest in these. And I know it's a very old saying, right? People don't leave the company; they
yeah,
leave their bosses. But
absolutely.
that is so true, right? Even now, it's so relevant, and that is why it's very important that you have the right people at your leadership level, and your employee engagement needs to be as strong as it could be. I've personally got a lot of push in terms of candidate experience, right? Because I'm mainly responsible for getting the candidate to the organization, and that's why candidate experience, so much of efforts, right? We do so much initiatives towards that, but after they join us, we don't know, right? And I'm just generally talking as well. So overall, I feel there's a need to really improve employee experience, make them feel that they are valued, they are heard, and yes, having right leadership can really solve this problem.
Amazing. I think so. The crux remains the same, irrespective what segment you are into, whether you're a GCC, you're an IT service, you are a startup, you are a non-tech organization. The core is your people, your leaders. I mean, if you have a strong leadership, they can own up the larger responsibility of building human touch, human connect with the people and the talent in the ecosystem. That's gonna be the core for sustainable, consistent growth in the competitive landscape like India. So my final question to you, looking ahead, if GCCs don't evolve their talent strategies, right? Is there a risk they will be perceived less as an innovation hubs and more as a cost efficient back offices just rebranded? I mean, might be a very different statement, but yeah, I think considering that everyone is running in just delivering on what's there on the plate rather than building a sustainable strategy, How do you see the long-term future of GCCs in India?
Yeah, so as you rightly said, Harshal, right? I think it's been a decade that we're trying to shed the back office tag,
Yeah,
right? Because when GCC was launched, it was definitely called as the back offices, right? We're just lifting and shifting the work here, and it was more from a cost saving perspective, right? The same work but lesser labor costs. That exactly was the intention. But now the mindset is changing, right? GCCs are now been looked at more of an innovation hub, where you get more quality output coming up. But yes, if your processes are not really aligned, right, if you don't move faster in terms of your talent strategy, your talent architecture does not look great, then you're still going back to the same old tag. And GCCs, now I also know that GCCs are trying to become more of a micro capability center.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that's the aim forward, and for all these things to happen, talent is a very very key aspect that GCCs need to start focusing on, and they need leaders who can think beyond the current need. Right? You cannot say, "But right now is what is happening. Let's focus on the current need and not future focused." And that's where the mindset shift needs to happen. And once that happens, yes, then we don't have to worry about calling us as a back office or having that tag. But yes, I think a lot of work will need to happen for us to continue maintaining the GCCs will be the innovation hub, and then the movement towards being a micro capability center.
Asma, I just want to summarize some of the key takes away for me personally, right? One, I love the perspective on need to invest in our in-house talent while having a limited dependence on hiring externally. Second, the early careers, right? So important for GCCs to leverage the campus hiring route from a long-term sustainable perspective and going beyond just the top tier institutions and being more open to evaluating skills rather than the education background. Third, I think the leadership, importance of the right leaders and leadership buy-in to drive the entire culture and keeping the entire people strategy bind in. I think very important element you brought up. And lastly, looking at a long-term perspective, you need to be having a diversified talent strategies, be open, be empathetic towards the people, and just don't get bogged down by the short-term goals what you're serving in just because you have a deliverables to work upon. It should be more a long-term perspective, and considering how competitive the GCC landscape is gonna come up in next couple of years, I think these elements are essential for any captive organization looking to stay, build, and grow in a country like India. Amazing insights, Asma, and I'm sure our viewers would have got some great perspective on what's happening, why GCCs as an organizations might be struggling while some of them might be flourishing. Thank you so much, Asma, for joining us today, bringing such an honest perspective for the discussion and being so candid in sharing from your experience. I want to thank you once again for being part of the podcast today.
Thank you so much, Harshal. It's my absolutely my pleasure.
To all the viewers, if you found this discussion enlightening, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Share this episode within your network. Stay tuned for more conversations with the HR leaders navigating the complexities of today's workforce. Thanks for listening. Until next time, this is Harshal, your host, signing off.